Hello everybody, my name is Daulton Nelson, and today I'd like to give my thoughts on a game I just beat. That game being Kingdom Hearts HD 2.5 Final Mix for the PS4. Kingdom Hearts 2 is published by Square Enix and directed by Tetsuya Nomura. It's an action RPG franchise that mixes Disney and Square Enix elements to bring this very unique package. And in terms of Kingdom Hearts, I came off of Kingdom Hearts 1, liking it a lot, but not really feeling that magic that the game's legacy includes. I also played Chain of Memories, which I also liked, but I still left it feeling like I wanted more. I remember some of the unique problems I had with Kingdom Hearts 1 was the want of more unique looking original levels, some more fluid animations, some better voice acting and dialogue, some streamlined item use, some toned down particle effects, and less of an emphasis on platforming. And coming into this game here, I kind of knew going into it that this game is kind of considered a bona fide classic by most of the gaming community, or at least fans of the series. And so I came into Kingdom Hearts 2 with a very high expectation and expecting a couple of other things. Like, of course, improved gameplay, the drive mechanic which is introduced in this game. I was expecting for it to add something substantial to the combat. I was expecting some better writing and line deliveries coming out of some of the voice actors, which I wasn't really getting from Chain of Memories. I was expecting the story to be more contrived or complex, as per this franchise's legacy, as well as Square Enix's legacy within storytelling. And I was just hoping for a better, more streamlined experience. And ultimately, I came off of Kingdom Hearts 2 feeling more of the same from what I felt of Kingdom Hearts 1, not exactly in terms of content, but experience. And so, we'll get into all that, but first I'd like to put a disclaimer up. Like the previous two Kingdom Hearts games I reviewed, I've seen walkthroughs of this game here, Kingdom Hearts 2, as well as the Clemps video, so I'm familiar with the story and the content that will be presented in this game. So if you're looking for somebody who has a fresh perspective on the Kingdom Hearts franchise, I'm not that. So let's start with the look of Kingdom Hearts 2, which visually, this game has improved a lot, with more detailed textures, smoother models, bigger environments, and more varied aesthetics. The camera and the environments within Kingdom Hearts 2 doesn't feel as claustrophobic as its predecessor. The Disney worlds this time around are much more fleshed out, with more of the set pieces from the films they come from being implemented into the worlds. And the UI of this game looks great. I really like the inclusions of the names of the sectors when you enter one of them, and just the very advanced kind of technological look they're going for within the UI design is very appealing to me, and it all flows really well. Now, the soundtrack of this game is yet again composed by Yoko Shimomura, the legendary Square Enix composer. However, throughout this game's soundtrack, I didn't quite feel like it compared to the first. Some of the tracks just didn't connect with me like the first games did, and there were some tracks that I felt were just really repetitive with how they were looped, and came off as annoying. Sadly, the line deliveries weren't really improved from Kingdom Hearts 1, but they are way better than Chain of Memories were. There were times within this game where the lines that the actors were delivering were tonally different from what the scene demanded. There was this one scene in particular where Sora was in trouble and the character named Axel saved him, but the line he came on sounded like he was teasing Sora during play, and it sounded really out of place, like the actor wasn't directed correctly on what this scene was all about. There was also more than a few cutscenes in this game that sounded like they were missing sound effects, or just sounded empty overall, and it would always be the tiny things that they would miss, like footsteps, gasping, certain little touches that would happen during the scene that I was waiting for those to happen, but they never did. And this was especially bad in some of the Disney worlds like the Olympus Coliseum, where most of those scenes sounded very empty. For the narrative of Kingdom Hearts 2, I felt that the general theme of the game, from what I could gather, was identity and what it means to know or to be oneself. There's lots of talk about existing and feeling within the dialogue of this game. The beginning portion of Kingdom Hearts 2 that does not focus on Sora or his crew, but instead on a character named Roxas, communicates this theme pretty well through a pretty clear through line. And that's why I was a little confused, because how this game started up communicated that theme, but when you get to the meat of the game, it just spends its time doing the same retelling of Disney stories that the first game did. I actually thought some of the Disney worlds they chose for this game could have been used in a more clever way to support this theme that they've set up in the beginning of the game. They have properties like Beauty and the Beast, Mulan, Lion King, Hercules, Aladdin. These all deal with themes of identity and finding oneself within their respective films. And these plots could have been twisted or adapted to fit this game's theme, rather than just retelling the same story again. I also thought the character of Roxas was underutilized within the story. After the beginning portion in Twilight Town, Roxas just disappears, but near the end of the game, he and Sora have this internal struggle fight, so he is clearly still in Sora for the entirety of the game. So I don't know why he disappears in that middle portion. Roxas being Sora's internal struggle could have taken over a lot of the Organization 13 scenes in my opinion. It could have been used to explain why the Heartless/Darkness Sora form randomly appears throughout the game. And that's another weird thing I found about this story. Sora will randomly turn into a Heartless/Dark form when you try to activate a drive, but it's never really acknowledged or focused upon. I feel like Sora would react to turning into that, or he would react to suddenly blacking out at points of the story, but instead you don't really get anything about it. Otherwise, the whole thing about Organization 13 trying to exist is an okay driving force for the story, but I would have rather had that story about Sora and Roxas and that internal struggle, rather than this group that is introduced and killed off within one game, but still gets plenty of screen time as if they're a more complicated force than they are. The ending of Kingdom Hearts 2 also felt very underwhelming, with weak fights and being hit with big set pieces one after another without really being given any time to fully register what's happening. One thing I really did like was that this game is longer than Kingdom Hearts 1, however the flow of the story was rather quick. And so while it took longer physically to complete this game, it felt quicker to play through, and it felt like it went by a lot quicker. For gameplay, there is quite a few things added to the Kingdom Hearts 1 mold that differentiates Kingdom Hearts 2 from its predecessor, the first being drive forms, arguably the biggest addition to the Kingdom Hearts framework here. With these forms, you get a whole nother fill bar that, when filled up to a certain value, you can activate a drive. There are 5 different types of drives within the game, and they are all designed for different situations. For example, the Valor form gives you a second Keyblade, which in turn gives you a higher damage output, while the Wisdom form is a more ranged and magic-focused form. And I really welcomed this addition to the gameplay. However, one thing I thought could have been tweaked a little bit was filling up the bar to get to the form. I feel like you should be able to fill the bar up a little quicker, and I feel like there should have been more moments dedicated to using these forms that there was in the game. As I mentioned before, Sora will randomly change into a dark form whenever he tries to activate a drive. And this dark form really can't do anything outside of execute a few crazy combos that are only available later on in the game. But you can't do anything in this mode but attack and move in this form. You can't restore HP, and you can't revert back to your normal form until you finish the fight. I don't really like the inclusion of this form, as it really seems like it exists solely to inconvenience the player without any real narrative or mechanical reason. Another welcome addition to this game was more of a focus on aerial combat, where there are a lot more aerial combos that you can equip within your abilities that makes the verticality of combat a lot easier to grab a hold of. There are also mini-games and missions sprinkled throughout this game, which offer some more mechanical variety. These missions and mini-games throughout the game can give you a break from the primary gameplay loop, and these can range from driving action games, to timed challenges, to rhythmic-based challenges, to skateboard checkpoint challenges. And it's a nice way to kind of break up the flow and take a break from the usual frenetic combat. The journal also got revamped in this game, and there's a lot more busy work put into Kingdom Hearts 2, where the journal now keeps track of everything throughout the game, from the treasures in the level, to the puzzle pieces you can collect, to the characters you meet, and even the missions within each world. And I welcome this added tracking functionality to the journal because it gives the player a very clear indication of what still needs to be done throughout the game, even if they've finished it. Some more busy work throughout the game is how the drives and summoning works, which they each have their own leveling system that comes with them. And with this leveling, you get certain abilities that you can't get otherwise from leveling up. Synergizing also got a little vamped up in this game, where materials are now kept track of within a special menu, and now materials are put in their own separate list within this game, so that your inventory isn't as cluttered. The gummy missions in this game are fundamentally the same, but the ship customizer got a huge upgrade. There are so many shapes and effects like bevels and curves that you can apply to your ship to make your own unique creation. As for other things within the gameplay, I didn't really notice any menu memory for sub-menus. This really dissuaded me from using a couple of things, especially magic, because if I'm not able to use the last magic spell that I had used within the scene, it makes it that much less accessible. And I think you really need that accessibility for these real-time, fast-paced battles. There's also some automatic item refilling in this game, where you can now toggle items to refill when you use them. Sometimes this wouldn't work for me, despite me toggling the refill on for say like potions. I don't know why it would do this at certain times, but I was always annoyed when it happened, because when I tried to use an item, that's always when I needed to use that item. There was also a problem in this game with bosses not dying when they were supposed to, which they would seem to reach 0 within their health value, but instead of just dying right away, their health bar would reach like an nth before 0, and they would still fight on despite me continually hitting them. And it would only be like a few minutes later where they would like randomly pick a time where they would finally die, where the game would finally register the defeat. And this was very annoying, and it happened way too often. So to conclude, like its predecessor, I liked Kingdom Hearts 2, but its experience never passed that of Kingdom Hearts 1. It felt like for every good idea they were introducing into this game, there was another idea of lower quality that was also put into this game. I'm going to give this game a final score of a 7 out of 10, the same as Kingdom Hearts 1. I never felt like Kingdom Hearts 2 ever crossed into the great territory like others like to put it in. But that is the thing, it still has its dedicated fan base, and this game's gameplay, if you ignore some of the bad parts, can still have its moments of quality. It just never reached me the same way it does others. So that is it for my review of Kingdom Hearts 2. If you're interested in my reviews, please like, comment, or subscribe. I also have social media links down in the description below, as well as a link to my online portfolio so you can see what I have done. And that's it, so have a great day.